Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are, and welcome to our new webinar in this series of events, online events on the Tai Ji Men case. Our title today is No Peace Without Real Justice for Tai Ji Men, and it comes on today, September 20th, which is the day when the UN celebrates the International Day of Peace. As usual, these webinars and today webinars do is brought to you by CESNUR, the Center for Studies on New Religion and Human Rights Without Frontiers. But before starting our first session, let us see an important video message from the Secretary General of the UN.
Everywhere we look, peace is under attack. From Gaza to Sudan to Ukraine and beyond, we see civilians in the firing line, homes blown apart, traumatized, terrified populations who have lost everything and sometimes everyone. And this catalogue of human misery must stop. Our world needs peace. Peace is the ultimate prize for all humanity. And as this International Day of Peace reminds us, the solutions are in our hands. Cultivating a culture of peace means replacing division, disempowerment, and despair with justice, equality, and hope for all. It means focusing on preventing conflict, propelling the Sustainable Development Goals, promoting human rights, and tackling all forms of discrimination and hate. This month's Summit of the Future is a vital opportunity to advance these aims.
It was a very important message, right to the point of our of the UN International Day of Peace today and our webinar. I want to share with you some reflection as a way of introduction to our event. Remembering all that in 2015, I'm fighting with my camera today. Sorry, remembering all that in 2015, all member states of the United Nations adopted a plan for global action in the attempt of affecting the near future of the whole world. They agreed to devise 17 objectives called Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, plural, to be reached within 15 years. And this is the reason why the plan is commonly referred to as the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The reported aim of the UN is to achieve harmony and prosperity for everybody, interconnecting the environmental, social, and economic aspects of life under the basic assumption that to be enjoyed and have positive results, development must be sustainable for all and carried through as well as possibly reached in a sustainable way by all. One of the 17 SDGs is peace, justice, and strong institutions. With it, the UN binds member states to promote inclusive societies by building effective and accountable institutions at all levels. The 17 SDGs include efforts to reduce violence, protect children from abuse, exploitation, trafficking, and violence, promote the rule of law, combat organized crime and illicit financial and arms flows, substantially reduce corruption and bribery, develop effective and accountable and transparent institutions, ensure responsive, inclusive, and representative decision-making, strengthen the participation in global governance, provide universal legal identity, ensure public access to information, and protect fundamental freedoms. Furtherly, addressing the topic on July the 6th, 2017, the General Assembly of the UN adopted a resolution fostering the 2030 agenda, also by means of some concrete indications. As to the SDG, peace, justice, and strong institution, the UN mentioned two key points. the strengthening of national institutions to prevent violence, crime, and terrorism, and the promotion and enforcement of non-discriminatory laws and policies. Let me try to sketch a first conclusion um, of this resolution and target for the future of the UN. Here articulated my first conclusion into 2 points. As clearly stated in the 2030 agenda, the UN considers peace as strictly connected to justice, meaning that no real peace can be reached without giving to all what is due based on their human nature and the standards that humanity has reached throughout its history. Implicit, but strong in this statement is the basic idea that peace cannot be the mere absence of war. This is my first point, my first conclusion, provisional conclusion. The second is that through its 2030 agenda, the UN states that a sustainable future for humanity is reachable only by focusing on the strict correlation between peace and justice. Said differently, for the UN, humanity will be able to stay human only by granting peace through justice to all. I think these are the key points to consider when confronted with that incredible situation that we are discussing in this series of webinars under the name the Tai Ji Men case. This is in fact a spectacular example of blatant injustice that has arrogantly denied and still openly denies the enjoyment of true peace to a whole community of pacific, law-abiding, and patriotic citizens of the Republic of China in Taiwan by curtailing and denying their fundamental right to freedom of religion or belief. The fact that this injustice has been and is perpetrated through fabricated evidence, lies, and corruptions makes the case literally unbearable while calling for international keen attention. In fact, as this series of webinars has repeatedly and truly stated, if this can happen in a democratic society where the rule of law is considered fundamental, it endangers the whole world. Let us return to the grand goal of the UN 2030 agenda aimed at shaping the future of humankind to underline now some of its flaws. Out of its 17 SDGs, peace, justice, and strong institutions is listed number 16. 16 out of 16, number 16 out of 17. It almost comes last. It is in fact preceded by other goals, such as good health, gender equality, decent work, economic growth, industry, innovation, infrastructures, and so on. Also, SDG number 1 wishes to fight poverty using a quite utopian approach that I think weakens the whole document. And I quote, eradicating extreme poverty for all people everywhere by 2030. End of quote. Those listed in the 2030 agenda are, of course, all key points for everyone, but placing peace and justice at the end, the UN is implying that they are a mere consequence of other goals. It should be the contrary. By any simple logic, number 1 in the list sets the tone and the path for what comes next and makes the rest dependent on it. This is why granting peace through justice should be the first goal of the member states of the UN. In fact, equality among human beings, decent condition of work, development, and sustainability all derive from peace through justice, not the opposite. There cannot be any of such human achievement if justice is not the basis. Even a democratic society is not peaceful until justice is granted to all its citizens. The 17 SDGs of the UN mention even good health for people. In fact, even good health for people is unattainable if justice is not achieved. Of course, the UN 2030 agenda sprang out of the world's worries for climate change, and its phrasing, as well as its hierarchy in listing its goals, shows it quite well. This is another weakness of the document. Is the UN saying that the world would be better off if 15 goals, mainly concerning the environment and productivity, are secured before peace through justice for all? Well, in this case, I already see the smiles of rogue states. The final weakness of the UN 2030 agenda is that, after putting peace through justice almost at the end of its considerations, it seems also to be willing to let injustice prevail outside the circle of its member states. Of course, the UN documents and resolutions bind only member states, but can a sustainable world be achieved if a democratic country based on the rule of law that for the events of history and not by its will has been excluded by the UN, such as the Republic of China in Taiwan, is left alone when it violates the fundamental right to religious liberty of a group of its citizens that has been repeatedly cleared of all accusation by every level of the Taiwanese justice? Will the UN be satisfied of reaching peace and justice only for some people on earth and not for all? Is the UN saying that peace and justice, already considered of lesser importance, are not universal values? I think it cannot. And this is why the Tai Ji Men case, tragic and also emblematic as it is, could signal a red alert for all democratic institutions, starting from the UN and its devised goals for the future. And without further ado, and leaving you with this consideration and even questions I posed, I start with the first session of our webinar today by giving the floor to Dr. Michele Olsi, teaching assistant to the course of Religion and Media and temporary research fellow in political theory in the University of Insubria, Italy. Dr. Olsi, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Michael Spinti. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody who's following. After the inauguration of a new president in May, Taiwan had the opportunity not only to have a new government, but also to fix a pending issue strictly connected to a spiritual movement that had suffered injustice there. Unfortunately, it happened otherwise. Those familiar with the Tai Ji Men case already know the persecutions that this spiritual movement suffered from 1996. However, a brief recap of the principal elements connected to this pending issue are necessary. Tai Ji Men is a menpai of self-cultivation, qigong, and martial arts. Since 1996, Tai Ji Men has been suffering from several persecutions by specific organs of a local government. More specifically, the movement was accused by a prosecutor of tax evasions and fraud. These charges are linked to a peculiar aspect of the Tai Ji Men tradition, which is common to all martial arts and self-cultivation groups in Taiwan. When they entered the movement, Tai Ji Men's disciples expressed their gratitude by giving their Shifu, Grandmaster, red envelopes. Normally, these envelopes contain money as gifts by the disciples to their Shifu. Accordingly, the content of the red envelopes should be considered as non-taxable. However, instigated by the prosecutor, the National Taxation Bureau issued tax bills for the years 1991 to 1996 by claiming that the content of the red envelopes was not gifts, but tuition fees for alleged cram school. Notwithstanding the 2007 decision of the Supreme Court, which declared Tai Ji Men defendants innocent of all charges, including tax evasion, NTB maintained the tax bills. After protracted litigation, it corrected the tax bills for all years except 1992 to zero. For the year 1992, the NTB argued that a Supreme Administrative Court decision rendered before the Supreme Court decision of 2007 was final, and no different disposition was possible. Although both the Supreme Court in 2007 and the Supreme Administrative Court in 2018 stated that the Tai Ji Men is not a cram school, the NTB maintained its tax bill for 1992. This led to a seizure, unsuccessful auction, and nationalization of the Tai Ji Men sacred land in Mayayoli in 2020. Recently, the movement offered the Taichung High Administrative Court an alternative solution to fix the issue by filing a new lawsuit, where Tai Ji Men's representatives asked for a refund of whatever might have been considered as payment for the fabricated 1992 tax bill. On August 2, 2024, the Taichung High Administrative Court ruled against the movement and supported previous anti-BIP decisions. This latter verdict allows to include the Tai Ji Men case among those where transitional justice has not been enforced. According to German scholar of peace and conflict studies, Suzanne Barclay-Zistel, transitional justice concerns the acknowledgement and correction of human rights violations in societies in transition. On the one hand, the end of the martial law period in 1997 makes of Taiwan a peculiar example of society in transition. On the other hand, the persecutions of the Tai Ji Men suffered since 1996 make of the Tai Ji Men case a specific case of transitional justice denied. For the sake of accuracy, the Tai Ji Men case requires a specific approach to consider both the unjust imposition of a tax bill for 1992 and the nationalization of the land in Mayayoli. According to Barclay-Zistel, there are two main approaches to transitional justice: retributive justice and restorative justice. In detail, the latter approach, open quote, does not seek to punish, but to re-establish the relationships between victims and perpetrators, end of quote. A crucial conception underlies this approach, namely, open quote, a crime is being conceived to be an offense against a person, not a law, end of quote. This implies, in turn, that some form of reconciliation must be established between victim and perpetrator. One crucial aspect of a restorative justice, states Mr. Barclay, is its strongly constructivist feature. In sum, this approach aims to create again, open quote, new social reality through the encounter of victims and perpetrators who transcend their animosity, end of quote. Therefore, to establish any form of reconciliation, an encounter between victims and perpetrators represents a necessary step. As Mr. Barclay says, one outcome of the encounter between victims and perpetrators is the truth. To do that, in several cases, peculiar organs, also known as truth commissions, had been established. These temporary institutions gather victims' testimonies to document crimes and atrocities in a final report. What is crucial in the process, thus, is the production of the truth itself. According to the South African Truth Commission, 4 different kinds of truths tend to emerge during the process: factual or forensic truth, personal or narrative truth, social or dialogue truth, and healing and restorative truth. In the Tai Ji Men case, several authorities already manifested their solidarity and support. Several authorities in Thailand had also clarified that Tai Ji Men was not a crime school and was not guilty of tax evasion, including the Supreme Court decision of 2007 that declared all members innocent of all charges. The production of truth process should focus on the main true and just factors of the whole story: the decision to maintain the tax bill for the year 1992 and the nationalization of a sacred land in Mayayoli. Justice will be served whenever a viable, restorative truth will be offered about these 2 aspects of injustice. Restorative truth for Tai Ji Men means acknowledging that the 1992 tax bill was ill-founded and should be corrected to 0, and that the nationalization of the Mayayoli land was based on the fabricated tax bill, with the consequence that the land should be given back to the Tai Ji Men. Thank you for attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Olsi, for reminding us of the path of this staggering case and what is at stake for Tai Ji Men people, for Taiwan, for the whole world, probably, or surely, and for all the people who hold peace, justice, and truth as dear values. Thank you so much for reminding us what is going on, in a democratic society, which is quite non-understandable. It is my pleasure now to give the floor to Christine Mir, Deputy Director of the Coordination des Associations et des Particuliers pour la Liberté de Conscience in France, and she will address the topic of today: peace and justice for Tai Ji Men. Christine, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Marco. A good afternoon and good evening to everybody. So today we gather to commemorate the International Day of Peace, a day for global ceasefire and non-violence established by the United Nations General Assembly in 2001 through Resolution 55/282. This resolution invites all nations and people to honor a cessation of all hostilities and to commemorate the day through education and public awareness on issues related to peace. It is therefore crucial to consider the words of UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres in his message for the International Day of Peace 2024. He stated, "Peace is needed now more than ever as conflicts tear our world apart." This statement underscores the urgent need for collective action towards peace in our increasingly conflictual world. The International Day of Peace is of great importance to Tai Ji Men, as they are dedicated to promoting peace, love, and conscience throughout the world. Dr. Ong Tao Day, the Chifu, the Grand Master of Tai Ji Men, has always emphasized the critical role of peace for global well-being. In his speech for the 2021 International Day of Peace, Dr. Ong stated, "Everyone has a duty to promote peace. We must work together to create a world of love and peace." This statement encapsulates Tai Ji Men's commitment to promoting a culture of peace through individual and collective action. In 2022, Dr. Ong further emphasized the importance of conscience in achieving peace. He said, "Conscience is the key to resolving conflicts and promoting peace. When we act with conscience, we naturally create harmony and understanding." This profound insight highlights the intrinsic link between personal ethics and global peace. Most recently, in 2023, Dr. Ong expanded on these ideas, stating, "Activating conscience is the foundation for creating lasting peace. We must nurture a culture of conscience to build a world where peace prevails." This progression of thought over the years demonstrates Tai Ji Men's consistent yet evolving approach to peace building centered on cultivation of conscience and ethical behavior. However, as we discuss the vital work of Tai Ji Men in promoting global peace, we must also address the ongoing injustice faced by the Tai Ji Men in Taiwan. The case of Tai Ji Men serves as a stark reminder that the pursuit of peace often faces significant challenges even in democratic societies. The situation faced by Tai Ji Men in Taiwan is a matter of grave concern, as highlighted in the written statement we presented at the 57th session of the Human Rights Council. This case, which has spanned over 2 decades, involves violation of human rights, freedom of religion or belief, and property rights. The statement outlines how, in 1996, Tai Ji Men was falsely accused of fraud and tax evasion, leading to a series of legal battles and government action that had severely impacted the organization and its members. Despite being exonerated of all criminal charges in 2007 by the Supreme Court of Taiwan, Tai Ji Men continues to face unjust treatment from tax authorities. One of the most egregious aspects of this case is the illegal seizure, unsuccessful auctioning, and nationalization of sacred land of Tai Ji Men. This land, which was intended for the construction of a spiritual center, was confiscated based on an arbitrary tax bill that has been widely criticized as unjust and lacking legal basis. The auction and subsequent nationalization of this land not only violates Tai Ji Men's property rights, but also infringe upon their freedom of religion or belief and of cultural practices. Furthermore, the case has broader implications for the human rights and the rule of law in Taiwan. The actions taken against Tai Ji Men raise serious questions about the abuse of power by government agencies, the integrity of the tax system, and the protection of religious and spiritual organizations from unwarranted persecution. The international community has repeatedly called for a resolution to this case, emphasizing the need for Taiwan to adhere to principles of justice, human rights, and religious freedom. Various human rights experts, scholars, and NGOs have voiced their concerns, urging the Taiwanese government to take immediate action to rectify the situation and provide appropriate compensation for the damage inflicted upon Tai Ji Men. The persistence of this case, despite numerous court rulings in favor of Tai Ji Men, highlights systemic issues within Taiwan's legal and administrative processes. It underscores the need for comprehensive reforms to ensure that such injustices are not repeated and that the rights of all individuals and organizations are adequately protected. The Tai Ji Men case serves as a critical reminder that the pursuit of peace and justice often begins at home. For Taiwan, a country that prides itself on its democratic values and respect for human rights, the resolution of this case is not just a matter of justice for Tai Ji Men, but a test of its commitment to these fundamental principles. As we observe the International Day of Peace, it is imperative that we not only reflect on global conflicts, but also address injustice within our own societies. The case of Tai Ji Men in Taiwan demonstrates that peace is not merely the absence of war, but the presence of justice, respect for human rights, and the protection of individuals and collective freedoms. The international community must continue to support Tai Ji Men in their quest for justice and recognition. Their dedication to promoting peace, love, and conscience should be celebrated and protected, not persecuted. The resolution of this case would not only right a long-lasting wrong, but also strengthen Taiwan's standing as a beacon of democracy and human rights in the region. The case of Tai Ji Men reminds us that the path to global peace is paved with the resolution of local injustice. We must stand united in our call for justice for Tai Ji Men and its chifu, Dr. Hong, recognizing their invaluable contributions to peace and human well-being. In observance of the International Day of Peace, I would like to make a sincere appeal to Taiwan. Let the unwavering dedication to peace demonstrated by Tai Ji Men serve as an inspiration to all. Their efforts serve as a reminder that the pursuit of peace requires vigilance, perseverance, and a commitment to justice. They embody the spirit of the International Day of Peace, working assiduously to create an harmonious world and spreading their message of love, conscience, and peace without fear or indifference. It is of the utmost importance that Taiwan finally does justice to Tai Ji Men and rehabilitate them in accordance with their legitimate rights. Doing so will not only do justice to Tai Ji Men, but also contribute to the realization of a more just, peaceful, and harmonious world for generations to come. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Christine Mia, for many things you said, but basically out of the many things, one is very important. And you said, this is my paraphrase, that one cannot think of achieving global justice and peace without addressing directly and solving local problems. There was once in the 90s an expression, maybe still in use, that was going local, localism, which means the strong interconnection between local problems and solution to the global problems and possibly solution. It's another utopia to think to solve the fate of the world, not addressing properly again local situation. And when we say local, sometimes these touches upon the life of thousands or even millions of people. So it's local, but it's very much important. And again, thank you for reminding us again that the Tai Ji Men case is not only a Taiwanese problem that we can leave in the footnotes of history, but it's something that affects directly or indirectly the whole world. Thank you. We now have the third and last of the scholars speaking during this first session of our webinar today. And it is Mr. Willy Fautré, director and co-founder of Human Rights Without Frontier, which is one of the two institutions that organizes this series of webinars. And unfortunately, Mr. Fautré could not be in person, cannot be in person with us today. So he sent recorded message through a video, which is very important. And it's the turn of Mr. Fautré.
The International Day of Peace was established in 1981 by the UN General Assembly. 20 years later, in 2001, the General Assembly decided by unanimous vote that the 21st of September would be the UN International Day of Peace. Throughout history, the concept of peace has often been pursued as the ultimate goal for societies fractured by internal conflicts, oppression, and injustice. However, achieving true, lasting peace goes beyond the mere cessation of domestic disorder, violence, or armed fightings. A profound and enduring peace is inherently tied to the pursuit of justice at home. Concerning Tai Ji Men's pursuit of justice, we all know that in their case, injustice had started with prosecutor Hu Guangjian, who illegally abused his power to have discriminatory and unjustified tax bills imposed on the movement on the basis of fallacious reasons. He forged false evidence and asked the National Tax Bureau, the NTB, to go on issuing unjustifiable tax bills. This was done every year in 1991, 92, 93, 94, and 95. This was the beginning of the ordeal of Tai Ji Men. In 2007, the Supreme Court ruled that the taxes were unfounded and illegal, and that Tai Ji Men had never been guilty of any tax evasion. The conclusion should have meant the end of the prosecution and the reimbursement of the illegally collected taxes, but it was not the case. How to explain such a denial of justice? After the Supreme Court decision in 2007, the NTB went on trying to maintain the tax bills, but eventually, after protracted litigation, it had to correct to zero all of them, except the one for the year 1992. Why? In fact, the tax bills had been the subject matter of separate litigations year after year. For the year 1992, the Supreme Administrative Court had rendered in 2006 a decision against Tai Ji Men that was technically final. It could therefore not be appealed anymore or dismissed by any further court decision, even of a higher jurisdiction. The law was obviously internationally misused by prosecutor Hu to destroy the reputation of Tai Ji Men. This persistent abuse of power and injustice had started in the aftermath of a dictatorial regime, because the democratization and the lustration process had not been fully developed and implemented. At that time, in the 1990s, the lack of accountability still persisted in the minds of people in leadership positions because there had been no purification of society, no significant prosecution of political leaders and their minions for crimes committed against their own people crimes against humanity. During what should have been a period of transitional justice, a period of healing of the wounds attributable to decades of dictatorship, the justice machinery had not been sufficiently cleansed and operational. Laws can be changed very quickly if there is a political consensus, but the implementation of democratic laws needs time to become effective. And it can even take 1 or 2 generations to change the minds of the people. Denazification of Germany, defeated at the end of the Second World War, could take place under the umbrella and even the yoke of democratic foreign occupation forces of the country. But destabilization could never be implemented by the Russian people alone, despite its efforts after the internal collapse of the Soviet Union, because the minds of the people in power positions had remained totalitarian. The contrasting outcome was, on the one hand, a democratic Germany, and on the other hand, a dictatorial, warmongering Russia, crushing its population and threatening the whole of Europe. National and international justice is vital for peace at home and in the world. And peace cannot thrive in the absence of fairness, accountability, and the equitable treatment of all segments of society. It must also be kept in mind that any peace achieved is fragile and temporary, and should therefore be cherished and be taken care of. Now, about the last peaceful legal battle of Tai Ji Men for justice.
Thank you so much virtually, but substantially to Billy, who is not with us today, for reminding us again what it means internationally if we don't solve, if Taiwan doesn't solve the Tai Ji Men case, which is based, as he underlined, on this absurdity of canceling, reducing to zero all the supposed debts toward the state, except for the year 1992, which is simply, I cannot find any other word, unbelievable. I mean, it doesn't go. There is no reason why. And Billy explained all that, and precisely, and again, called for international attention on this, on the suffering that this has caused to a whole movement, which I always fond of underlying its lower binding, pacific, and patriotic. So there is no reason to hit Tai Ji Men. This the video by Mr. Fautré concluded the first session of our webinar today. And before going, as usual, to the second session, which will welcome the important testimonies of many busy who are the disciples of Tai Ji Men, who are suffered and suffer this injustice. Let us see now together another video.
Conscience Story Series, The Weeping Stele of General Yang Hu. In the ancient city of Xiangyang, there stands a stone stele commemorating the renowned general of the early Western Jin dynasty, Yang Hu. He was not only an outstanding military strategist, but also an exceptional politician and writer. Yang Hu was smart and talented, known for his integrity and uprightness. He was responsible for significant government affairs but never sought fame. Those he recommended for official positions often didn't know who was behind their recommendation. He also shunned personal gain. While he was stationed in Xiangyang and governed Jingzhou, he noticed that the people's lives were difficult and the army lacked food supplies. Therefore, he did not increase taxes and reduce the number of soldiers, allowing the army to cultivate the land instead. A year later, he had stockpiled enough food to last the army 10 years. He also built schools, giving the ordinary people's children the opportunity to receive an education. For 10 years, he lived a simple life, often sharing his salary with
I think we have some technical problems, which will, I think, be solved soon. I'm waiting messages from the technical side. Otherwise, we can go on with our program. Oh, okay. No, yeah.
He also shunned personal gain. While he was stationed in Xiangyang and governed Jingzhou, he noticed that the people's lives were difficult and the army lacked food supplies. Therefore, he did not increase taxes and reduce the number of soldiers, allowing the army to cultivate the land instead. A year later, he had stockpiled enough food to last the army 10 years. He also built schools, giving the ordinary people's children the opportunity to receive an education. For 10 years, he lived a simple life, often sharing his salary with
Here we go again. I think we have some problems and probably we can go on with our program and maybe see this video later. I always find very entertaining in the best sense, very educational in the nicest sense. This cartoon which use the art, modern art, to convey some important message. So let's start with the second session, and I will now going to give the floor, and I hope my Chinese pronunciation is good, to Ms. Xiu Cho. She is a government ethics official and a Tai Ji Men. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Jiyu Zhou, a 弟子 of Tai Ji Men Qigong Academy. I'm 24 years old and currently serve as a government ethics official. Since I was young, I have practiced Qigong with my family at Tai Ji Men. To me, Tai Ji Men is like a big family where my fellow brothers and sisters support and care for each other. In addition to practicing and refining our Qigong skills together, we spend a lot of time organizing events to strengthen our bond and listening to the teachings of our Shifu, Dr. Hong Daozi. And Shifu not only teach us physical exercise to strengthen our bodies, but also the comfort of the heart. He often reminds us that the world is in chaos. If each of us can act with love in our hearts and use our goodwill to positively influence others, we can restore balance to the Earth's magnetic field. If everyone follows their conscience, refrains from being driven solely by personal gain, and strives to do what is right, then evil acts will disappear, and love and peace will spread across the globe. It's not just empty talk. Tai Ji Men has always self-founded and traveled across all 5 continents, visiting over 100 countries to spread its culture. In addition to promoting the truth, goodness, and beauty of Tai Ji Men's culture, it is also dedicated to advocating for the era of conscience movement. And growing up in Tai Ji Men has benefited me immensely. I have witnessed how my sisters and brothers incorporate Tai Ji Men's philosophy into their daily lives. They radiate a deep inner strength, and calmly face life's challenges. Their example has deeply influenced me, strengthening my belief that Tai Ji Men's values are not just a form of practice, but also a guide for life, helping me maintain peace and integrity in both my work and personal life. After graduating, I chose to enter public service and became an ethics official for the government. Essentially, our role is like the woodpecker of government agencies. We are responsible for preventing and uncovering corruption and misconduct within the system, just like a woodpecker removes harmful insects hidden in the trees. Once the pests are removed, the tree can absorb water and nutrients from the soil more smoothly, allowing it to thrive. Clearly, my work is closely connected to conscience. Although I am still new to this field, from what I have observed and learned so far, our goal as ethics official is to build as robust a defense system as possible within government agencies. However, even the best system have flaws, and in any large group, there are bound to be some bad apples. These issues are difficult to completely prevent because external supervision alone is not enough. Personal self-restraint and acting with conscience are equally important. If everyone acts with a clear conscience, unlawful behavior will naturally disappear, and our society will have a better chance of improving. The debate over whether human nature is inherently good or evil has been ongoing for centuries. Mentions who believe in the goodness of human nature say that every person has a heart of compassion and that benevolence, righteousness, propriety, and wisdom are inherent in all of us. On the other hand, Sun Tzu, who argue that human nature is inherently evil, believe that good behaviors are learned and that people are born with a desire for personal gain. Of these two views, I have always leaned towards Mencius's belief in the goodness of human nature. I believe that when we are born, we are not inherently bad, but as we grow up and enter society, we become entangled in its unwritten rules, blindly pursuing fame and fortune, and gradually forgetting the conscience within us. What Tai Ji Men advocates is for us to rediscover that precious conscience so that we can stand firm in this chaotic and complex world, making the right decisions. In 1996, Tai Ji Men suffered an unjust persecution during a government crackdown on religious organizations. This case has dragged on for 28 years without resolution. At the time, a prosecutor seeking to make a name for himself violated the principles of fair investigation and coerced false testimony, causing harm to tens of thousands of families. The extensive media coverage that falsely reported on the case never issued a retraction, even after the courts cleared Tai Ji Men of all charges, causing immense mental and emotional distress to all Tai Ji Men brothers and sisters. No public authority has ever issued an apology to Tai Ji Men. Despite this decades of hardship caused by unjust government actions, Tai Ji Men has continued to help society, launching the global era of conscience movement. This is what touched me the most. No matter the challenge we face, Shifu always teaches us to respond positively and never compromise on doing the right thing. In my work, I will continue to follow Shifu's teachings and do my best to uphold ethical standards, contributing to a fairer and more just society. I believe that the mission of Tai Ji Men is not only to pass down the cultural heritage of Qigong and martial arts, but also to advocate for an era of conscience and integrity. As we face challenges, we will persevere, guided by our conscience, believing that this faith will shine even brighter in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Chu, for your testimony. It's very important because you basically say that we cannot achieve peace through justice if that doesn't start from within us, from our heart. So we make peace through justice in ourselves, and then we bring it to the whole world. And that may be one of the unsolved problems of the corrupt bureaucrats in Taiwan. And if I understand this correctly, this is more or less basically what Tai Ji Men, Shifu or Grandmaster, teaches you this in terms of being peaceful and just within yourself to bring that to the outer world. And it's a very nice approach, getting us a little bit, not only in facing today, as we do in our webinars, the Tai Ji Men case, but also the Tai Ji Men spirituality, if the word is correct. I think we are now ready to try to see together the video, the weeping stilly of General Yang Hu that we were not able to see before. So let's try again.
Conscience Story Series, The Weeping Stele of General Yang Hu. In the ancient city of Xiangyang, there stands a stone stele commemorating the renowned general of the early Western Jin dynasty, Yang Hu. He was not only an outstanding military strategist, but also an exceptional politician and writer. Yang Hu was smart and talented, known for his integrity and uprightness. He was responsible for significant government affairs, but never sought fame. Those he recommended for official positions often didn't know who was behind their recommendation. He also shunned personal gain. While he was stationed in Xiangyang and governed Jingzhou, he noticed that the people's lives were difficult and the army lacked food supplies. Therefore, he did not increase taxes and reduce the number of soldiers, allowing the army to cultivate the land instead. A year later, he had stockpiled enough food to last the army 10 years. He also built schools, giving the ordinary people's children the opportunity to receive an education. For 10 years, he lived a simple life, often sharing his salary with
Oh, there is some problem again, and probably not. We will not be able to see it, but we will try again maybe later. Let's now go to our second testimony for this second session, and the floor goes to Miss Chuang Min Chen. She's a university student and a Tai Ji Men deity. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello to the scholar and friends. I am a freshman who has just started my first year of university this year, and I have grown up in the Tai Ji Men family since I was little. I have been exposed to Qigong from a young age and have become optimistic and cheerful through self-cultivation. In junior high school, I began to join the volunteer advocating for tax reform when on the street, voicing concern about Taiwan's tax issue. This experience has not only been an exploration of social justice, but also challenged invalid courage and a sense of responsibility. In my growth process, the government depicted in textbooks has always been seen as the graduate and democracy and freedom, upholding justice for the people. However, still my involvement in tax reform activities, I discovered the harsh realities of many tax injustice cases, revealing that reality is not always as it seems. This led me question why government that appear democratic and transparent still has many victims of tax injustice who cannot wait for their case to be recated. These tax injustice cases have not only led the destruction of individual family, but also caused personal sorrow. I witnessed how the retreat council on the mountain led my master Hong Daozi intend to build for his弟子could not come through Chun due to unsolved injustice, and I watched as a beautiful statue gradually wither away, filling my heart with helpless and regret. Additionally, my personal health has significantly improved through practicing at Tai Ji Men. Since childhood, I have suffered from natural allergies, often need to use a whole pack of tissue each morning, and coupled with ordinary low blood pressure, I frequently felt personally drained. However, since I started practicing Qigong, my blood pressure has gradually returned to normal, and I no longer suffer from natural congestion in the morning, and my overall health has improved, which has positively impacts my appearance. All of this make me even more grateful for the profound influence Tai Ji Men has had on my life. At the same time, I found it increasingly difficult to understand why such a positive and constructive organization would be subject to prolonged protection by the government. Therefore, I decided to join the tax reform alliance to seek justice for my second home and just for the innocent victims of tax injustice. I also hope that through my efforts, more people will understand Taiwan's tax issue and pay attention to this seemingly distant but actually closely related topic. I participate in volunteer activity, taking to the street and dispersing flyers in front of department store. So I was very nervous at first, unsure how to capture pedestrians' interest in the tax issue and encourage them to take a flyer in just a few seconds. My master told me, stick to do the right thing and just do it. As long as you brave take the first step, it don't seem so daunting. Thus, I learned the courage to face rejection and realize that even if people refuse to take the fire, it should not waver my determination to contribute to tax reform. I also vividly remember having to perform the 22,000 dance in front of an adult to call the government to return the over-collected tax to the people. Sure, it required a lot of courage for me. Having a good partners with the same belief dancing together made it much easier to let go. Although someone may ask me, why are you concerned with the complex issue at such a young age? I will aware that these issues are closely related to my future. Taiwan's tech problem has already caused many foreign enterprise to choose to leave, and I hope that in my future, I can work on this land with peace of mind. Wouldn't need to move abroad due to tax issue. I also hope that the government can properly utilize every cent of this tax we pay, spend it on truly meaningful projects to create a more to create a more prosperous and happy society in Taiwan. On March 3rd of this year, through the Peace and Love Memory event, and I prefer a song, Brave for Love, The Lawyer, Clear the Clouds, and we will eventually embrace the sunshine. Because of love, so I am brave. Deeply touched my heart. Throughout this journey, it is our love for Tai Ji Men and for our country that drive us to dedicate our time until every heart believe that one day justice will prevail. As I experienced the meaning of this song through dance, the image of the tax refund Alice volunteers standing in their post despite the storm come to mind. This vision further solid my belief. As long as we unite and preserve, justice will eventually come. As I enter university and I have more time to my disposal, I hope to follow my master Hong Daozi and spread the idea of love, concern, and peace to every corner of the world. I promoting the promise of Tai Ji Men. I believe we can make more people feel this love and awaken more individual to pay attention to take issue, work together to create a more better society. Thank you.
Thank you so much for, again, reminding us how self-cultivation that is at the heart of the Tai Chi Men teaching is the key to peace and justice throughout the world. And you added your own personal testimony at that very young age, which is so it brings comfort to older people and to the world, I think. And I just want to directly quote you. You say that you wrote, I decided to join the Tax Reform Alliance to seek justice for my second home, which is Tai Ji Men, and it's a beautiful expression, and for those innocent victims of tax injustice. And this is right in the topic of today. I also hope you wrote that through my efforts, more people will understand Taiwan's tax issues and pay attention to these seemingly distant but actually closely related topic. This is, as I said, very important because you're giving your testimony of wanting to do something concrete, and being very young, this is very rewarding for people listening and watching. And you also say that these two arguments may seem distant, but actually they are so intimately correlated, which is another important key issue to always keep in our mind. Thank you again. We now will listen to our third Tai Ji Men testimonial in this second session of today, and I'm giving the floor to Mr. Alex Chu, a manager, and of course a Tai Ji Men Dizzy. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. How are you today, this morning? Okay. I have been fortunate enough to be a member of Tai Ji Men for about 13 years. A few years ago, I had the opportunities to travel with Sifu and my fellow brothers and sisters to attend the GSMA, United Nations Assembly in New York, and twice to the Global Conference of Chief Justice of the World in India, which left a deep impression on me. From the trip with Tai Ji Men, I have the following reflections. First, watching those Tai Ji Men pretty and innocent junior sisters gracefully perform the traditional Chinese dances and singing the beautiful songs made me feel like I was surrounded by angels, as if I was in heaven. The feeling was incredibly wonderful to me. Second, I had the chance to meet outstanding individuals from around the world, including ambassadors, chief justice, ministers, and former presidents, which greatly broadened my horizons. What surprised me even more, was the humanity and politeness of these VIPs. There seems to be no sense of hierarchy, and within just 3 days, I deeply felt that the world was truly just one family. And that concept of one global village became firmly rooted in my heart. When we participate in these international trips, we have to take leave from work and also cover all the expenses ourselves. Sometimes it's hard to overcome the hurdle of letting go of work, family, time, and money, etc. I believe that once you are able to let go of whatever money, time, family you are blessing, will still come back to you someday. I remember one time I followed Sifu and my brother and sister to go to India for this International Conference of Chief Justice of the World for more than 1 week. Not long after, when I come back, the customer that I contacted before finally placed a big order for me. Truly, when you give, you receive. And it's not just the material gains, the spiritual fulfillment and satisfaction are far more valuable to me. I'm a manager at a small trading company. And although our revenue isn't large, we report our taxes honestly. So I haven't encountered many tax issues, fortunately. However, from what I see in the media, the government has been over-collecting taxes for several years. In 2021, the surplus was the 432.7 billion NT dollars. In 2022, it was 523.7 billion NT dollars. And in 2023, it was 386 billion. And by May 2024, there was already an additional 148 billion. A significant portion of this comes from the corporate income taxes. This raises the question, could the tax reward system be one of the hidden culprits behind this over-collection? In fact, there are rooms for discussion. Talking about Taiwan's tax law, we can ignore the Tai Ji Men case, which has been ongoing since 1996. It's now for 28 years already. In 2007, the Supreme Court ruled that Tai Ji Men was not guilty and owed no taxes. Tai Ji Men is not a crane school, and all the offerings to Sifu were voluntary gifts from Dizi. Of the 6 tax bills issued as a result of criminal case, 5 years had already been corrected to 0. Yet, the 1992 tax bill remains. Since the other 5 years have been corrected based on the same facts, how is it possible that 1 year has not been acknowledged and corrected? It's absurd. The National Taxation Bureau can continue to impose taxes, transfer case for enforcement, and forcibly auction Tai Ji Men land. Totally ridiculous, as there's no tax incentive reward system at work behind. In 2018, the Control Yuan pointed out that the tax reward system was originally introduced more than 60 years ago by the Ministry of Finance to compensate tax officers for their heavy workload and responsibilities, aiming to balance their work quality with their salary. While the system has positively functioned in encouraging retention and performance, it was inappropriately labeled as a reward rather than being incorporated into the standard salary system, leading to dispute over distribution and public misunderstanding. After the tax bonus system was abolished in 2004, the amount of tax reward paid to the senior officials, 20 senior officials, continue to surge, causing people to suspect a link between the two. This had led to criticism that tax officers issue excessive tax bills in pursuit of bonuses. The Executive Yuan and the Ministry of Finance must address and improve the system to eliminate misunderstandings and preserve the dignity of tax officers and the image of the government. I'm fortunate enough to have found Tai Ji Men since 13 years ago, and joining where I can cultivate both my body and my mind. I have great role models in my fellow brothers and sisters, and I'm guided by the enlightened Sifu, who teach us the spirit of love, altruism, and peace through his words, action, and silent teachings. It's not enough for one person to be well of himself. For true well-being, our family, friends, society, and the world must also prosper together. That's why Sifu leads his disciples on journey around the world for more than 109 countries to spread the message of love and peace. Before joining Tai Ji Men, I suffered from the nasal allergies and scoliosis, both of which had gradually improved through practicing Qigong. Cases like mine, where my Tai Ji Men brothers and sisters have improved their physical and mental health through Tai Ji Men Qigong, are numerous. It's heartbreaking that such a wonderful group is being burdened with unjust taxes, and the Tai Ji Men's land has been illegally auctioned and taken by the government. If the system is not reformed and Tai Ji Men's reputation is not restored, how many more individuals and organizations might fall victims to similar injustice? We hope someday any politician will stand out who truly understand the people's wishes and bring actual, real transitional justice to rehabilitate Tai Ji Men case. but each time our hopes are dashed. Nevertheless, until justice is served, we will always be here to fight the good fight. Justice for all. Thank you.
I beg your pardon, Michael, speaking, but your microphone is off.
I'm sorry, I was muted. Sorry again. Thank you so much. I was saying for adding another nuance and another angle to the strict correlation between self-cultivation and building peace and justice. And this is exactly what the second session of our webinars is all about. You bringing, you Dizzy, bringing trying to elaborate on the general topic of the webinar with your own spiritual experience. And I just took a note when you were speaking. You pronounced many interesting sentences, but one of them is when you give, you receive. You say. We often listen to this kind of thought, but it's very much important, I think, to hear it pronounced by someone who's working in a trading company. We don't associate usually trade, commerce, industrial thing, which goes to money and sometimes greed, to such a profound spiritual thought. And this is a very good and important contribution to us all. And I have a good news for all our viewers and listeners. We are ready to play the previous video that was damaged with some problems, and we are now ready. So let's see the video.
Conscience Story Series, The Weeping Stele of General Yang Hu. In the ancient city of Xiangyang, there stands a stone stele commemorating the renowned general of the early Western Jin dynasty, Yang Hu. He was not only an outstanding military strategist, but also an exceptional politician and writer. Yang Hu was smart and talented, known for his integrity and uprightness. He was responsible for significant government affairs, but never sought fame. Those he recommended for official positions often didn't know who was behind their recommendation. He also shunned personal gain. While he was stationed in Xiangyang and governed Jingzhou, he noticed that the people's lives were difficult and the army lacked food supplies. Therefore, he did not increase taxes and reduce the number of soldiers, allowing the army to cultivate the land instead. A year later, he had stockpiled enough food to last the army 10 years. He also built schools, giving the ordinary people's children the opportunity to receive an education. For 10 years, he lived a simple life, often sharing his salary with the soldiers. Yang Hu was also a wise military leader. In facing the rival state of Eastern Wu, he adopted a conciliatory policy, rewarding those who surrendered and allowing them freedom of movement. During wars, he adhered to agreements, avoiding sneak attacks or deceit. If someone suggested invading Eastern Wu, he would get the person drunk with fine wine, preventing them from continuing their arguments. During this period, the Jingzhou border remained peaceful. Yang Hu passed away in his later years due to overwork. The military and civilians of Xiangyang mourned deeply for him and erected a stele in his memory. His successor, Du Yu, noticed how the people missed Yang Hu, named the stone stele the Weeping Stele. Whenever people saw this stele, they couldn't help but shed tears in remembrance of him. If officials in power forsake personal gain and fame, care for the people based on their conscience, and use wisdom to resolve conflicts, they can create lasting peace.
I am very glad we were finally able to see the video because it shows that even power, which sometimes we automatically associate with evil doings, can be used to bring good to the people, to the general public. That is a very important teaching. We now give the floor to another university student, and Tai Ji Men DC, Miss Christina Kuo. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Today we gather together to commemorate a day of profound significance to the current world situation, International Day of Peace, on September 21st. This day was established by the United Nations in 1981, with the aim of promoting global peace, resolving conflicts, and striving for a future free from violence and war. What is peace? True peace is not merely the end of war. It encompasses a much deeper meaning. On September 21st, 2022, my Shifu, Dr. Hong Daozi, the leader of Tai Ji Men, initiator of the movement of an era of conscience, and vice president of the United Nations NGO Associations of World Citizens, delivered a thought-provoking speech, with one particular passage that was especially profound. True peace refers to a harmonious relationship between communities, between humans and other species, and between all living things and Mother Earth. How can we attain peace? How can the original trinity of heaven, earth, and humankind be brought into harmony? Is there a panacea? The panacea is in our hearts, and that is our conscience. Conscience does not distinguish between the rich and the poor. It is a gift from heaven to all humankind. As long as we can restore our kind heart, it will lead us onto a bright path, guiding us to move forward in the right direction in a chaotic world. Speaking of conscience, I would like to mention the heartbreaking case of the 1219 Tai Ji Men Falls case. On August 2nd, 2024, in the lawsuit regarding the return of Tai Ji Men's sacred cultivation land, the judge disregarded factual evidence and unjustly dismissed the case. Despite 28 years of joint effort by Tai Ji Men Dizi and conscientious individuals from various fields, including judiciary, taxation, culture, martial arts, and religion, both domestically and internationally, the case remains unresolved. I believe the key issue lies in the lack of accountability, which in the context of international human rights law is known as impunity. This refers to the failure to hold perpetrators of human rights violations accountable and can even be seen as a form of a denial of historical wrongdoing. From a psychological perspective, accountability helps individuals regulate their own moral behavior and fosters social control, thereby promoting fairness in society and reducing conflicts caused by negligence or abuse of power. Furthermore, when the society has a clear and fair system of accountability, its people will feel more secure because they trust that their human rights will be protected. This, in turn, strengthens the public respect for and trust in the state and government. In other words, accountability is not only a legal necessity, but also a psychological foundation for maintaining social harmony, safeguarding human rights, and respecting others. It is particularly crucial in preventing tragic cases like the 1219 Falls case. Throughout history, the rise and fall of many nations and empires have been tied to unjust policies or taxation system, such as the French Revolution and the American War of Independence. These revolutions were driven by the conflicts between the people and their governments, which created a state of unrest. For a nation to achieve long-term stability, The government and its people must work together and pull against each other. Otherwise, this will only result in greater instability and conflict, eventually leading to the downfall of the nation. My personal understanding of peace comes from my experience in the student association at university. When we make decisions and organize events as a team, disagreements are inevitable. Some people may feel dissatisfied or complain, and in these moments, communication becomes crucial. Only when we choose to coexist peacefully and keep our minds calm can we truly listen to different perspectives and help each other find the best course of action. On the contrary, when everyone is unsettled, whether it's inner turmoil or conflict with the situation, it becomes difficult to focus or make wise decisions. One of the blessings of practicing and cultivating in Tai Ji Men is that we have the opportunity to reflect on the messages in songs, which encourage us and can inspire others as well. For instance, during the COVID-19 pandemic, a sense of unease and mutual distrust spread. I often listen to the peace prayer song, and Love and Peace song is also one of my favorites. Whenever I read the lyrics or song or sang along, the anxiety and unease in my heart gradually subside. I learned that peace is not just the absence of conflict in the external environment, but also the calm and harmony within. It is not only about personal peace, but also about the justice and righteousness within a nation system. For example, the song's world citizens enjoy human rights and prosperity and happiness carry the message that my Shifu conveys to us, teaching the principle that heaven, earth, and humanity are one. When we understand that all things exist according to reason and persist with logic, we learn to respect one another and live in harmony, which leads to a strong nation and healthy, happy people. The theme for this year's International Day of Peace, as designated by the United Nations, is Nurturing a Culture of Peace, which is the essence of Tai Ji Men's culture. 弟子 practice this in their daily lives, and together with our Shifu, we have traveled across 5 continents to promote the ideals of love and peace to many important leaders and heads of states, spreading the seeds of peace through influential individuals. I still remember President Meneses of Sao Tome and Principe ringing the bell of world love and peace with the heartfelt wish, may all the children of the world smile. In 2003, when a military coup took place in his country, President Meneses responded with forgiveness and tolerance toward the coup leaders, fulfilling the wish he made when he rang the bell. The smile of a child symbolizes a nation's security and peace, and it is this smile that represents the future we hope for the world. The establishment of the International Day of Peace serves not only as a reminder of how fragile global peace is, but also to remind us that everyone can be a promoter of peace. From inner peace in individuals to peace in communities, governments, nations, and even the world, it all begins with the goodness in our hearts. Let us work together to bring more love and peace to the world. I would like to conclude with a passage from my Shifu, Dr. Hong Daozi, who has dedicated his life to promoting peace. When everyone has a conscience, the world will be at peace. When everyone is happy, every family will be blessed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I wish to pick up just from your last thoughts, underlining that despite the fact that the many people don't suspect it, don't know it, one of the major activity of Dr. Hong Tao said, the Shifu or Grandmaster of Tai Ji Men, is basically traveling the world, speaking in favor of peace, and of course, peace achievement through justice. This, as far as I understand, is one of the major tasks he has been doing with the company of so many Dizzy that took the floor in so many of our webinars throughout the years and now the decades, visiting many countries, sometimes turbulent countries too, and in meeting so many important world leaders. And this is another great testimony of the fact that, again, peace and justice should start to be cultivated in our self and then brought to the world. So in parallel to advocating in favor of Tai Ji Men, in the Tai Ji Men case, Tai Ji Men is doing materially, practically, something important for peace through justice. And it should be recognized for that. Unfortunately, in the Republic of China, in Taiwan, it is not. We now go, last but not the least, to another, the third university student and Tai Ji Men Dizzy for today, who will conclude the second session of our today webinars, and it is Mr. Pin Xie, and I give him the floor.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ping, and I'm happy to be here to participate in this online forum for International Day of Peace. This year's theme, fostering a culture of peace, resonates with me. I believe that culture exchanges and learning to reconcile with our own stubborn mistakes are crucial to promoting peace. About a month ago, I had the honor of representing the Federation of World Peace and Love, FOPAL, at the 40 years anniversary of the World Conference of Mayors in Atlanta, United States, where I share the importance of love and peace with the attendees. The summit, co-hosted with the National Black Chamber of Commerce, attracted many entrepreneurs seeking investment opportunities. When they curiously asked what we were selling, we always replied, "We sell love and peace," which often brought smiles and laughter, opening the doors for us to explain the significance of peace and conscience in achieving global stability and prosperity. As Dr. Hong Daozi, president of FOPAL, once said, "A good culture fosters good education, and which in turn leads to a strong economy. A culture of peace is essential for everybody's life." Similarly, culture and economy exchanges greatly contributes to peace, as they help people see aside prejudice and build harmonious cooperative relationships based on understanding and tolerance, reducing the likelihood of conflict. While sharing FOPAL's cultural exchange results in Atlanta, I also attended a historical tour of the African American civil rights movement, which covered everything from the 19th century Atlanta address, encouraging Black people to participation in social economy activities, to the Tuskegee Airmen, who served their nation during World War II, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s leadership of the civil rights movement in the 1960s, which ultimately ended the century of the segregation in the South. This experience helped me understand the hardship that Black people face during their fight for equality and dispel many of my previous misconceptions about their higher crime rates and lower level of education. For instance, what I learned was Black school districts receive far less funding compared to the other districts, making it harder for them to improve their lives through education. Many attendees I spoke with also agree that cross-cultural understanding plays a huge role in maintaining peace. Personally, my understanding of peace is that it begins with communication with oneself. Only when we achieve inner peace can we communicate effectively with others and create peace in a larger environment. As someone on the autism syndrome spectrum, I also need to reconcile with my own rigidities. As for example, as a child, I often have strong negative reactions to small things that doesn't go my way, like refusing to take the elevators or insisting on taking a specific route home, which lead to conflicts with those around me. But one day I remember a few words from my shifu, Dr. Hong, and he said, there's no need to fuse over trivial matters, and most things in life doesn't go the way we want. And these words help me focus on the good things in my life and learn to let go and make peace with the heart that struggles against itself, rather than ruining my mood over trivial or insignificant issues. Shivu also said, a bad thing is not always bad. Sometimes what doesn't go our way isn't necessarily a bad thing. So why insisting that everything must follow our will? If things doesn't go my way, I would take the initiative and make them happen. Once I understood this, I was able to reconcile with myself, and my heart become peaceful again. Sometimes I would think that isn't the 12/19 incident that Tai Ji Men faced just like this? At first glance, this seems like a tremendous misfortune. However, since it has already happened, we must face it with courage and work towards a solution. As a result, Tai Ji Men Dizi united in their efforts, not only for themselves, but also for the country and the society, pushing the government to reform its flawed legal and tax relief systems. Through the path ahead seems long and unending, we hold on to the belief that as long as we took action, there is hope and we'll continue to press forward despite the heavy burden. So the road ahead is very long and we continue our journey with this belief. And as a result of this wrongful case, we've gained a deeper understanding that how governmental power can infringe our human rights, and young people who grew up in Tai Ji Men are now more willing to pay attention to national and worldwide issues, and they will help many tax disaster victims along the way. And this is one of the examples of how something bad was not entirely bad. But what should we hold on to and what should we not? That is a matter of wisdom. Holding on to the wrong thing can be like how I used to be, unable to find peace with myself at home or at school. I remember a line from Tai Ji Men's Ancient Culture Night performance where again leaders said, those who follow me will live and those who oppose me will die. If people didn't do what he wanted, he would resort to violence. In real life, though arguments, violence, crackdowns, and even wars follow this same pattern. In the case of the 12/19 incident, the magazine Bitter Winter referred to the National Taxation Bureau and the Administrative Enforcement Agency as the Taliban, insisting on fulfilling their yearly quote of 130 millions in tax rewards and 190 millions in performance bonuses, which lead to a farce in the legislative realm. And one of the former Minister of Finance, Xu Yuze, candidly says, if you want to talk about tax human rights, there will be no more tax, revealing that the wrong-headed insistence that has erased human rights in Taiwan's taxation system. My shifu told us to spend our life learning about 6 words: truth, falsehood, right, wrong, good, and bad. This wisdom helps us discern right from wrong and avoid unknowingly make mistakes. Over the years, I've realized that the essence of the wisdom is conscience. In his Song of Conscience, my shifu mentioned that conscience let us tell the right from wrong and give us wisdom to tell true from false. I am grateful to have learned from Tai Ji Men since childhood on how to follow my own conscience, which not only keep me on the right path, but also contributes to spreading a culture of peace in the world. Thank you all for listening to my sharings.
Thank you for concluding on this note our second session. And I want to single out from your many reflections something that is original, I think, to your testimony and that you don't have in common today with other DZ, at least in your speech, and that you stressed for a while the importance of communication. I work as a journalist, and this is very important to me, but I'm sure to many of our attendees today in the webinar, present in person, I mean virtually connected to share their thoughts, but also on the web. Communication is very much important. Is a cornerstone of peace through justice. Clear, correct, honest, transparent communication is one of the secrets of trying to build a better community, a better national community, a better international community, which is the other name of this magic sentence, peace through justice. And I do thank you for this. And I now leave the floor for the conclusion to my friend and colleague, Dr. Massimo Introvigne, founder and Center for the Studies on New Religions and editor-in-chief of Bitter Winter magazine that was just mentioned, and where I serve. I'm proud to serve as director in charge. The Center for Studies on New Religions, together with Human Rights Without Frontiers, is the organizer of this series of webinars, and we owe them so much for the important topic that month after month we face on the Tai Ji Men case. Dr. Introvigne, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marco. And as we heard in many of the speeches today, because of the fabricated Tai Ji Men tax case in 2020 land in Miaoli, Taiwan, that Tai Ji Men considers as sacred and was intended for a self-cultivation center, was seized unsuccessfully and nationalized, generating widespread domestic and international protest. Recently, on August 2nd, the High Administrative Court of Taichung wrote a new chapter in this tragic history by refusing once again to rectify the injustice. There are several violations of human rights and of the highest principles of international law in the Tai Ji Men case. But one that I want to emphasize today, on the eve of the International Day of Peace, is the violation of the principle that sacred religious land should be protected and not subject to seizure for administrative reasons or for any other reason. This principle is strictly connected to peace. Scholars have emphasized the importance, among other documents on this issue, of the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 55254, adopted on May 31st, 2001. The resolution, I quote, condemns all acts or treats of violence, destruction, damage, or endangerment directed against religious sites as such that continue to occur in the world. calls upon all states to exert their utmost efforts to ensure that religious sites are fully respected and protected in conformity with international standards. As scholars again have noted, this resolution went beyond previous documents on the protection of religious sites in times of war. It stated that they should also be protected in times of peace. As we know, in the United Nations document, the adjective religious is broadly defined and includes forms of belief, such as Tai Ji Men's, that their practitioners prefer to call spiritual rather than religious. In this sense, international law asserting the inviolability of spiritual sites owes its founding principles to the great Russian painter Nicholas Roerich, whose work was discussed by Carolina Maria Kotka in one of our previous webinars. Roerich was more than an artist. With his wife Yelena, he promoted Agni Yoga, a splinter group from the Theosophical Society, based on revelations they claimed to receive from mysterious masters. In the field of international law, however, Roerich is mostly remembered for the Treaty on the Protection of Artistic and Scientific Institutions and Historic Monuments, in short, the Roerich Pact, that he promoted for decades until it was signed in 1935. At that time, it was and remains an inter-American treaty signed by 21 states in the Americas and ratified by then of 10. Although the League of Nations expressed support, World War II halted the process to making it a treaty for all continents. Yet its principles inspired subsequent United Nations and UNESCO statements and efforts. Roerich's motto for the pact was Pax Cultura, peace through culture, meaning that there is no peace without protection of culture. What he meant by culture is shown by the banner of peace that Roerich created. His idea was that this banner should be displayed on certain buildings and lands, signaling their inviolability. The banner has 3 red dots in a circle. While Roerich was an esoteric master, and the 3 dots also represent the 3 levels of existence, in the Roerich Pact, they indicated 3 kinds of properties to be protected, respectively in the name of art, science, and spirituality. The circle represents time, meaning that these properties should remain inviolable in all times, in peace and in war, in the present and in the future, and their protection is essential for peace. Tai Ji Men's land in Miaoli is a sacred land. It was designated as such by Tai Ji Men's Shifu or Grandmaster, and is perceived as such by his disciples. As social scientists know, sacredness is a culturally negotiated attribute. A land or a building becomes sacred when a community invests it with a shared sacred meaning. The spirit and the letter of the Rurik Pact and of United Nations statements on protecting spiritual sites is that a land is not sacred because a government acknowledges it as such. It is not the government that confers sacredness. It can and should only acknowledge it. So, since the Miaoli land is a sacred land, seizing or nationalizing it and making it impossible to use the land for spiritual purposes is a violation of the international law principle of the inviolability of sacred sites. This is another reason why the Tai Ji Men case should be solved, and it is also another reason to condemn the August 2 Taichung High Administrative Court decision as a lost opportunity to rectify a serious violation of both international and domestic law. And with this, I thank all the DITSI who offered their testimonies, and the participants, scholars, and Marco Respinti for his leadership. And as usual, we conclude with a musical video.